Good morning. Welcome to the Treasure Coast Unitarian Universalist Church in Stuart, Florida. Today is July the 10th, and my name is Janet Rader, and I'll be your worship associate for this morning. As all of you know, we are a welcoming congregation. We welcome people of all gender identities, ethnicities, ages, and background. It's wonderful to see all of our vaccinated members and guests this morning. To find out more information about us, you can go to our website at tcuuc.org and note that there's an email link, and then you can be put on our newsletter list. If you have your cell phones with you, please silence them now at this time. If we have any visitors this morning, we would love, I'm kind of looking around, we would love to have you come up and introduce yourself at the microphone if you feel comfortable. Okay, it kind of looks like everybody is a member or a person that has come a number of times, so that's fine. We have a number of announcements. I think I'm going to start by saying I know we have a lot of July birthdays. That's been in the newsletter. Maybe if you are a July birthday person, could you stand up for a second? Okay, look at there. Okay, great. Thank you for coming. July the 10th. This is my mother's 98th birthday, and she has been gone, sadly, for many, 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 many years. But I think of her on this day. Let's see, for announcements, we have Zoom Current Events has resumed. That's with Bob, and if you're interested in being a part of that at 11 o'clock on Fridays, contact Bob and he will give you the Zoom link. The Zoom Book Club meets at 11 o'clock on Wednesdays, and currently the group is reading My Brilliant Friend by Elena Ferrante. Email John Morn, and I think all of you know John, if you'd like to receive the Zoom link for the book club. Many of you know we have our picnics first and third Tuesdays at Stuart Veterans Memorial Park downtown. That's 300 Southeast Ocean Boulevard in downtown Stuart at noon. And that's the brown bag lunch, and there's plenty of room to spread out, so we feel like it's a very safe environment. Something new, we have just started having fourth Tuesday hors d'oeuvres where we can get together again. And what we're going to do on Sunday, August the 7th at 3 p.m., I think Bob has put this together. We are going to go, those who decide to purchase a ticket and tell Bob they'd like to join, go to the ACT Studio Theater on Ocean Boulevard in Stuart, which is producing Much Ado About Nothing. And one of our members, who I don't see here this morning, Joe Giancario, will be in the cast. And then Bob is suggesting that supper at Florentino's follow the theater. So if you feel like you can't miss that, let Bob know. Also, I know Janet Grote and Regina Wood have mentioned that the memorial plaque has been purchased at a cost of about just under $900. So they are still hoping for some donations to that. If you just put that on your check, that is what the donation is for, then that will be gladly received. We continue to collect donations for our family in Indiantown. That can be put on your check, the notation, as well as putting it in that purse over there. Big help and thanks to the people that are helping with the service. Jackie Robbins, as usual, we're so delighted to to have Jackie every week. Karina, our host, and Chris McGann, our tech wizard, Marguerite Gregory for the coffee and cookies on the patio that we enjoy after the service. And now, our prelude.
I'd like to welcome summer with this piece, but I left the music home, so bear with me in case I go flying off. I had a bass fiddle available to me, so last night I just played cello and put the bass part on this, so here we go. Welcome to summertime. Oh, shoot. Excuse me while I get this on Wi-Fi. Bluetooth. Connect. Thanks. Telltale sign. Sorry for the delay. Here we go. Summertime. 1. Okay, I think Bob is supposed to light the chalice, but I see he is out welcoming some members. We gather in this time of uncertainty, full of unknowns, as angst closes in upon us. We light this chalice with a flame that draws us together. With this flame, we cut through the darkness of isolation and are warmed by the fires of our inner connection. For this moment, this radical moment, we find a certainty within the knowable bounds of love and community. For my opening words, I'm going to do something a little different. I have held up this before. This is a magazine. Okay? The reason you'll understand why it's called a magazine when I go to the next part. My sister recently was visiting with her granddaughter in Chicago, my only great niece, and she and her mother belonged to a Unitarian church in Chicago. And she came back, my sister came back with something that Karina, my great niece, has done kind of on her own, but she made these available to the people at her church, just like during coffee hour, and also her youth group, which makes me think, wow, wouldn't it be great to have a youth group, was selling cookies and pastries at the Gay Pride Parade, which was going, I think, 1 block from their church. And so she had these out if someone wanted to pick them up. And what they're called is a zine, Z-I-N-E, which, of course, you can find on Google. It was totally new to me. But a zine is not a MAGA zine, it's just a zine. And I thought maybe sometime when we have our hors d'oeuvre night, maybe we could take a turn at trying to do these. This is how it starts off. And this is one she did called Quotes by Unitarian Universalist. But the one I'm going to read is another one, which is, she's got entitled Spirituality. And she says inside about 1 million results when you Google spirituality. Although spirituality is defined differently for different people, spirituality in general is a sense of connection to something bigger than ourselves. Being spiritual can be different for different people. For example, some paint, write, or be creative. Some do good things for others. Some gather with others to be spiritual as a group. Some spend time in nature. Some move their bodies to music. What do you do to stay spiritual? And I would suggest that what we do is we gather together, as we're doing this morning, as we do for the book club and the brown bag lunches and the hors d'oeuvres evenings. That's at least one way that we stay spiritual. So I think Karina is going to put a quick little shot up of my great niece who's standing with my sister. Karina, can you put that up for just a moment? Okay, that's my great niece on the right and my sister on the left, and they're standing in front of their Unitarian, or her, Karina's Unitarian church in Chicago. So doesn't that make you want to have a youth group here?
Amen.
That would be nice. Okay, let's see where we are now. I think we are ready for, let's see, Bob, I'm losing my place. I think we're ready for our first hymn, 203. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
All creatures
All-
of the earth and sky.
Yeah. 1st through 4th verses. Sun of Okay, now we come to our affirmation. Let us recite our affirmation, speaking the first verse and singing the second through our mask. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
What number is this, Bob?
123.
Thank you.
No, that's further around.
We'll just sing it. You don't need to accompany it. Let's have the choir start us on this.
The choir start us from, first note. Let faith and love arise. Let beauty, truth, and good be sung from every land and every tongue. Amen.
Thank you.
You know, sometimes we try to make it look as if we're winging it. We- This is our time of joys and sorrows. We invite you to share yours in the hope that you will know as you do, you are listened to, and you are supported. If you're comfortable doing so, we invite you to come to the microphone up here, share your joy and sorrow, and then move a stone to our symbolic river of life. And I hear myself being quoted often saying, please let them be personal and let them be brief. I want to start out with a few of my joy, sorrows this week. I think a number of you read in our Friday update that our newest member, Pat Malone, died in the past week or so. Pat announced himself here a couple months ago, remember. He was from Reverend Bob's hometown of Troy, New York. And I told him a month or so ago when he became a member that we wouldn't hold that against him. And he was just a sweetheart of a man and a welcome presence among us. On the day he joined, you might remember, I said, I realized that Pat grew up in North Troy and I lived with my grandparents for a while in that area. So he must have gone to the same small theater that most kids went to on Sunday afternoon. And he said, yes, he was there, but I don't remember meeting him there. But we were about the same age, and he was really a welcome presence here, and he will be missed. His daughter, is it Kara? And Garrett, her intended, are here this morning, and we would certainly share your sorrow. Also, you might have read that Hank Sinn's widow, Marlene, died this past week or so. Hank's widow, Hank, was on our board, and Rusty, their son, has been with us a good bit in the last few months. So we hold on to Rusty and Marlene's family. It's been a lot of loss for them in the last couple years. And good news about Gail McCarthy. Do you want to tell us that she's out of the hospital and how she's doing?
I spoke with Gail, well, I just spoke with her a couple of minutes ago, actually, because I was concerned, because I spoke with her a couple days ago, and I hadn't been able to reach her, but at hospitals, they don't always answer the phone, or they're doing tests, and in any case, she wasn't feeling well still, and she said they want to discharge me. They just want to get the room free, but I don't really want to go home today. This was several days ago. But she is home now. She came back yesterday, and I will be going over there to visit with her right afterwards and play some Bach for her, which is her favorite thing, on her cello. But she's on a lot of medications, and she's thinking maybe the medications are making me ill. She really can't eat very much at any one sitting, but she sounded terrific this morning. But 86 pounds sounds a little dangerous to me, so I told her that you were all sending her your love, and people had her in your hearts and minds, and she very much appreciated that. So thank you.
Thank you, Jackie. Anyone else want to come to our mic or from your seat and tell us what's on your mind or heart this morning? Anybody?
Me, Janet Grote. A little bit of joy. The armadillo got away. We've actually had some first baby armadillos in our yard, and this morning there was a terrible racket. One of them had gotten into the dog yard, and my dog was after that. It was quite an adventure to get him up and over the fence, and it was a shock to find out how fast they can run. So it was a little joy.
Anyone else?
Last week I left you with the mystery of how my friend got COVID after going on a cruise. And it turned out that 3 weeks later she got COVID, and it's well out of the incubation period. She got COVID on her job. She came back from the cruise, went back to work. Several people on the job had COVID, and she caught it there. I hate to leave people with a confusion of what happened. However, I asked the congregation, give me some ideas. My friend feels depressed, and I want my friend of 50 years feels depressed. I've never known her to be depressed. And someone said, send her a card. You know how big I am on cards. So anyway, I did. She loved it. Thank you for your ideas. A card every other day. That's what I'm doing.
Yes, Jackie. Yep.
I'm Jackie Robbins, and somebody nominated me for a Marty Award. But I was so busy with life and taking care of people and all, they completely missed the deadline. So I got in touch and I said, sorry, and they said, oh, no, there's wiggle room. So fill out, get the forms. I didn't get the emails reminding me because the person who nominated me gave them a different email than was in their database. So I will be filling out the forms and getting letters of recommendation and garbage. But I really, really enjoyed Pat's presence, and if it's okay with you, I'd like to play the gift music in honor of Pat, because every time he came up to the mic, he just made me smile. He always had a warmth about him that was fabulous, and it was like a big leprechaun. And I appreciated him being here for the short period of time, which was just a number of months, but it was always fun to meet him and to listen to him. So thank you.
Anyone else? Bill.
Good morning, my name's Bill Falk. Like Janet Rader, I also have a parental birthday to acknowledge. My father would have been 100 this past week, and apparently also like Janet Rader, my father's been dead for quite a long time, 40 years. So that was one remembrance. A joy is to acknowledge that my wife had a big birthday this week. I will not say how big, but it was pretty big. If you put a couple snowballs on top of each other, you'd get some idea of how big it is. And the other thing is, I'm not going to be here next Sunday, so I wanted to just say this now. And next weekend will also be our 57th wedding anniversary.
Wow. That's great, Bill. We won't mention to Geraldine that you made the snowball image.
Well, she's not watching this, she's watching tennis.
Yeah. She's a Brit whose heart is in Wimbledon this Sunday every year. Anyone else with a matter of joy or sorrow to share? Then we move a stone for those who haven't said any out loud, but we know you have them, so we want you to know you're supported here. Now, the meditation is in the back of the hymnal. It's by Leonard Mason. We affirm the unfailing renewal of life. Rising from the earth and reaching for the sun, all living creatures shall fulfill themselves. We affirm the steady growth of human companionship. Rising from ancient cradles and reaching for the stars, people the world over shall seek the ways of understanding. We affirm a continuing hope that out of every tragedy, the spirits of individuals shall rise to build a better world. Leonard Mason. And now moments of silence. Our song is Spirit of Life, hymn 123. We hum the verse, we sing the verse with our masks. And now is the time of our morning offering. We hope people experience here a spirit of generosity, and we definitely need you to respond in the same spirit. Our morning offering. And now we have a really special offering. Our TCUUC choir, led by John Morn.
Just a moment to set up here.
I was going to tell us to wear blue, but I forgot.
You want to be over in this one?
No.
Maybe stand back just a little, just for balance.
I've been thinking about arrogance a lot lately. When we encounter it in personal relationships, arrogance, it is hard to take. Even though we know it is often or usually a cover or a hiding from personal insecurity, it is still hard to take. If I were to name names, arrogant people I have known, I would have to first own up myself. I worked hard in school and did well. I might have come across as a know-it-all. I'm sure I did. I came to know that people who truly know a lot also know how little they know. But that requires maturity. You don't start out with that. And some take longer to get there than others. Maybe you're just lucky and have good models, parents, teachers to thank if you get there at all. I think a good sign of maturity is you know you have someone to thank. It's an age-old theme. Hubris was the Greek notion of overreaching, not knowing our limit, flying too close to the sun. A mythical Greek reminder that nobody's all that is Achilles' heel. Achilles' mother dipped him in the river Styx, making his entire body invulnerable, except for the part of his foot where she held him, the proverbial Achilles' heel. Is that why my primary physician asks at every annual physical, "Do your feet need anything?" Yes, comfort, whatever the cost. Pride goeth before a fall, from ancient Hebrew scripture. The forbidden fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil is a mysterious symbol of all that. It is somehow linked to why we can't live forever. To explain the unexplainable, myth serves like a talking serpent, a tempting female. Well, that one's not so hard to explain. Pride seems like an unfortunate misnomer here. It's the first of the 7 deadly sins. That pride is usually synonymous with vanity or vainglory. Don't call it pride. People should feel pride in who they are, what their gifts are. If you feel good about your gifts, you might more likely do all you can with them. We just ended Pride Month. Who are the honorees of Pride Month, June? The ones I can think of: gays, grads, dads. I'll just say about the last one I know most about. If you got to be a parent, you remember the first day. Pride, awe, exhaustion, work. From that day on, it's not about you. Pride as a deadly sin, no, call it something else. My vote, arrogance. Arrogance has come to mind a lot lately because I've been glued to the Watergate documentary narrated by John Dean and the January 6 committee hearings. You don't have to hear again too many of the Nixon White House tapes, which he gave up kicking and screaming to a subpoena, to remember the pronouncement of Lord Acton. Was that his name, I think? Power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. As the magnitude of the Watergate break-in was coming to light, I was working briefly in a church in Yorba Linda, California, Nixon's birthplace and now his library. I had relatives of his in that church who swore he was a saint and would never do what you got to hear him doing on those tapes. And in the current January 6 hearings, after some clips of a relative of the former president were played, it was reported that a number of the relative's co-workers, called in that what we heard was pure arrogance. Can arrogance be pure? I guess like an illegal drug can be pure. And arrogance in the exercise of political power is pretty total when the rationale really is because I can. Arrogance has a hallowed and humbling place in American history. How else can we live with our ancestors? I know, nobody we knew, but our ancestors just taking this land which wasn't empty or for sale. That's what people did back then, and we are the beneficiaries, but it was what it was. And how else do we explain racism and that original sin at America's conception, slavery? You know, stealing, chaining, dragging people here who were deemed inferior, who were deemed not even people. Historical ignorance, arrogance yoked with power and greed because they could. Now, P.S., you know that when I learn something, I have to pass it on. This week, PBS started a series. I don't know if it was a repeat or original this week, but the series is called The Great American Muslim Road Trip. So this young couple, she a music star to Muslims, the couple is on a trip across America, Chicago to LA, I think, taking this trip to show the everywhereness of Muslim communities across the country. And they stop at a museum in Lincoln's birthplace or nearby, a Muslim historical museum. And we learn that many slaves brought to America were Muslim and weren't allowed to practice their faith here. And it comes out that many blacks in the ferment of the 1960s converted back to Islam because that's what their ancestors were, and they would have been if they could have been. And how else do we explain white supremacy today? Arrogance and fear in some toxic bundle. Its scariest face to me is white militiamen coming out of the hills, armed to the teeth, thanks to a Second Amendment worshiping America, thinking a white God blesses them only, armed to the teeth and intent on taking America back. Back from whom? Presumably back from people like us who believe in diversity, who celebrate diversity, who believe that America belongs to everyone who lives here, regardless of pigmentation, gender ID, whom you love, choices like that. Choosing whom we love gives us our most alive moments, and everyone must be free there. One of the most beautiful sights on earth is two old people who fell in love long ago and made a life of it and ended that way. If we can't be them, we can still envy them and be glad for them. And so we know everyone should have a shot at that. Arrogance in history, arrogance in government scandals reminded me of a great American, the chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, during much of the Vietnam War, Senator J. William Fulbright of Arkansas. He was a Southerner. He believed in racial segregation. We don't remember him for that. His greatness was his willingness to confront the president of his own party. Karina, are you coming along with a clip here? Hold that thought. This is just to see him and hear for a minute what he's remembered for, the Fulbright program, I hope.
Exchange program is an inexpensive one. Do you think it really has justified its cost to the taxpayers?
Well, I'm very prejudiced, Mr. Dissenter. I think it is the most effective way to bring about better understandings and better relations among the various countries involved. Of course, in this program, some 28. I think that you have a much better understanding of another country by going there and living among them than you do listening to their propaganda or reading about them.
Well, since the House has cut down on the appropriations, isn't it possible that there is a way to get this understanding in a cheaper way, say through the broadcasts of the Voice of America?
No, I think there is quite a definite resistance to propaganda, both the Voice of America or local propaganda, any propaganda. We've been flooded with propaganda of that kind. I think people must go and see for themselves to believe.
Well, he makes a point that there's a lot of disinformation abroad in his day. It seems like a relevant point. So he confronted Johnson when Johnson called Fulbright. Do you remember what he called him? Half-bright. Yep. He confronted Johnson, and as clearly as anyone I've read, called dissent an act of patriotism, a way of loving your country. Patriotism has long been one of those areas where it's too tempting to think that those who don't share your view or your ism don't have it, are unpatriotic. Fulbright gave dissent a proud name. His book, The Arrogance of Power, gave a still needed voice to understanding the limits of military might and the temptation to confuse might and right. He didn't write that truth and God are the first casualties of war, but he could have. Now, arrogance didn't make it to the deadly sin list, but I think it should have. It's a mask for all manner of insecurity and fear, and has perpetrated crimes against humanity, genocides under many religious flags. It's also so childish. The games people play, author psychiatrist Eric Byrne identified it as, mine is better than yours. That seems like a childish boast we grow out of with some maturity, unless we don't. And maybe because a religion has taught you there's only one true one, and yours is it, you don't have to respect anybody else's. Religion is supposed to make us larger-minded, larger-hearted, more loving. That's why I keep quoting Karen Armstrong, historian of world religions. Armstrong's claim that a number of religions in 700 BCE, almost 3 millennia ago, discovered that compassion was the heart of the deity, and so compassion should be the main thing about practicing any religion. If it isn't, then something else is driving you. I get a lot of help. This is a reading from Alan Watts. He popularized Eastern religions on TV in the 60s and 70s. So Truman Dunn found this in a UU minister, Galen Gungerich's book, a reading by Alan Watts. So you're getting it fourth hand. Faith is a state of openness or trust. To have faith is like when you trust yourself in the water. You don't grab hold of the water when you swim, because if you do, you will become stiff and tight in the water and sink. You have to relax. And the attitude of faith is the very opposite of clinging and holding on. In other words, a person who is fanatic in matters of religion and clings to certain ideas about the nature of God and the universe becomes a person who has no faith at all. Instead, they are holding tight. But the attitude of faith is to let go and become open to truth, whatever it might turn out to be. Alan Watts. Incredible damage has been done by people and nations who considered themselves better than and therefore entitled to more of the pie, more of the earth, more respect. May deity save us, save our planet, save our democracy from such arrogance. Our closing hymn is number 212. We're singing verses 1 to 4, I hope. We are dancing Sarah's circle. Next.
I'm sorry. 2.5 years ago, Bob called me up in an emergency situation, and I think this is wearing out now. So we are dancing.
We are dancing Sarah's circle, 212.
12. Pardon me.
Well, we're doing 212 Sarah's circle, if that's okay. On 211 is Jacob's ladder.
Okay.
But we're trying for 212.
Okay, let's see if this works. No? Is it? Okay, hang on,
No.
sorry. I've had a hard couple of weeks.
Well, listen.
No, hang on.
Listen, let's go to 211. We got a choir here.
No, I don't just look back here.
It's the same tune?
Oh, yeah, he told me it was a different song, but it was the same in another hymnal. But let me just go back to Doug. God.
Jackie, we love you.
So what number would you like? We're climbing Jacob's ladder? Oh, they're the same song in different keys. Just a different key. Okie dokie. Which would you like? Sarah's Circle. Okay, I'll give you a little intro.
No, that's good.
Good.
possibly, as I read the closing words, Janet will extinguish. Can you do that? You can. I owe you one, don't I? I'm reading this Wild Geese from the back of the hymnal by Mary Oliver. You do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert repenting. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. Tell me about despair, yours, and I will tell you mine. Meanwhile, the world goes on. Meanwhile, the sun and the clear pebbles of the rain are moving across the landscapes, over the prairies and the deep trees, the mountains and the rivers. Meanwhile, the wild geese, high in the clean blue air, are heading home again. Whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination, calls to you like the wild geese, harsh and exciting, over and over announcing your place in the family of things. Mary Oliver. Now we're going to gather in the lobby area and outside for refreshment and fellowship. And Janet will thank you forever if you follow me and Janet. Let's just say not anybody over the 2 snowball age, but if we we're going to move some lids off of vaults. But if we get enough people,